Alright, time to get this started. Hello everyone. Hope you had a great weekend. It is now Monday night, which means it's basically Tuesday. So we are 20% through the week. So, I think the last time I streamed, I was preparing for the GDevelop weekend game jam, and yeah, so I guess I'm going to show you all what I've done for that. I did not submit a game for that. And welcome, the Crinsada. You're welcome to stick around. I'm just going to show some results for my attempt at a recent game jam, which I actually did not submit to, and then going to do a little bit of tower defense building in one of my games here in GDevelop. So let me pull up my scene here. How's your Monday going? Pull up my old scene here. We've got... This is where I left off. The game jam theme was 2-button control. So the buttons I selected were for left and right. And here is the game. So for left and excuse me. For left and right, I decided to use gravity to help me progress through the levels. So I can fall left and right off of the platforms, but I cannot jump. And the way I implemented a jump was with these bouncy clouds. And so let me see if I can get any more to spawn here. This is the older version, so it's full of bugs. I fixed that in the newer version. I'm glad to hear your Monday's going well. I always like to get a little momentum for the week, and usually by Tuesday I seem to have found that. And so here you go, we got some jumping going on with the clouds, which is kind of like a workaround, kind of a cheat, since I've only got 2-button controls for left and right. And yeah, that's about it. Excuse me. Also getting over a little bit of a sickness this past weekend. So that's the old scene, and that's where I left off. Didn't do any more work than that, and life just kind of got in the way. I didn't want to stress about that game jam. I like to enjoy them, and so I actually got really close. And if I show you, excuse me again, the itch.io page, I was ready to hit the submit to jam button, and this was in such an unfinished state that this was the first time I just decided not to. Pull this up here. It's a draft. It's not even publicly available yet. Your game project is a little crazy passion project. Crazy concept. Been told you shouldn't do this by the game dev community. What are you making? I've got to know now. I've got to know. If I can navigate to my games, I can pull mine up as well. Okay, I found my page here. So go to this here it is. If I show you the moment this was actually, that the file was uploaded. We're making an action RPG settlement management simulator with a procedural narrative system. Yeah, I mean, in terms of scope, is that what people are getting you for? Is telling you that's too big of a scope? I mean, it sounds awesome. Sounds like the kind of thing I'm actually into. Anyways, on this one, I can't see where it's actually located, but it was uploaded 1 minute prior to the Game Jam submission time, and I decided not to. So what I'm going to do is continue here with this game, and here is the current status. So I've now implemented random colorization on the llamas. So now it's going to be a variety of pastels, and those colors include pastel versions of the original pink, and then blue, green, peach, yellow, and purple. So if I hit play again, it should still rotate through. It gave me another yellow. Let me double check my random number here. Random range, there we go. Anyway, it does have randomization. So I also added the background objects. I stabilized the rate at which these platforms will spawn in, and then fixed the cloud rate of spawn as well. What else did I do? Added the score system, and then a little sort of goofy thing. Since I decided to go multiplayer, that was kind of the direction that the G-developed Game Jam was going anyway, was a multiplayer. And that's partially implemented. I can get multiplayers to spawn in. I'm just tweaking a few bugs before I am fully there. And since I want this to be entertaining, you know, they say to make a game theme, unless you have something specific in mind, they say make a theme with a little bit of irony, a little bit of a twist. And here's my twist. Since you only have 2 button controls, and it's multiplayer, you could just fight over these edibles, but to take it a step further, I decided if you eat enough of them, you get gas, and you can fart each other off of the platforms, and so in that way you can kill each other. So that adds another element of competitiveness to it, and that's really the scope of this little game. You know, I could do multiple levels pretty easily, but really that's about it. And then I think I wanted to make these my friend suggested I turn the clouds into jumping piñatas that burst with the candy. And so I might do that as well. That'd be pretty quick and easy. And that's the status of that game. I could pop this open in a couple of windows to show you that there is in fact some multiplayer. Let me just tweak a thing here. So I'm actually happy that I didn't submit this to the Jam. The Jam gave me some really good ideas, and I knocked this out really pretty quickly, probably in under 30 hours. The multiplayers have been a learning experience, but I'm getting there as well. Plug in my variable here. Excuse me. And now if I test this, I'll run it in, say, 3 windows. I need to run this from the lobby. I thought I had that selected. Oh yeah, so this is the G-Develop 5 engine. It's no code, right? Of course there is code underneath, but it's event based. So on the left hand side you have your conditions, which are basically your if statements. The right side are all of your actions. So it's if then. Yeah, it's free. It's really beginner friendly. This is the main scene interface right here. You've got an objects panel. Really nothing too totally unique here. It's quick and easy. I like it. What's really cool though, one of my favorite things about it is I can open this up in the desktop app like I have here, which is it's probably the most robust way to edit in it. But I could also just open it up in a browser, which is also convenient for opening up multiple instances. And so with it being on browser, I could edit it in a browser on my phone, or I can actually download the mobile app. So lots of options there. So if I'm like out in town or something and I think of like a bug fix, I can actually just pop that in before I get home, before I forget about it. That's probably not unique to G-Develop, but again, it's just pretty quick and easy. So go over to my lobby scene here. Now I'll run a couple of previews. I'm going to show that I've got some multiplayer in the works. So I've got my 3 previews in the same lobby here. So they're all going to spawn in and fall from the top. And so on my left scene, excuse me, if I take control of player 1, the colors are not synced up yet, but I've got the 3 players in there and they can compete for the edibles. So that's kind of the, that's how it's going to look. I just need to work out a few bugs. And then I'm going to put that up online and it'll be available for anyone who wants to play it. And they'll be able to flatulent each other off of there if they eat enough of these things. 2-button controls, that's where that Game Jam submission lies, on my desktop. Yeah, what are you making your action RPG? Which engine are you using? And I'm going to close out of this game for now. Yeah, the player's going to lose in that game by... Sorry, again, I'm just getting over a cough here. The player's going to lose by falling off. And I haven't totally decided if I want it to be life-based. I know it had a life bar in there. If I pull that back up again. I did put that life bar up there. And there's a scoring system, so I think it's just going to be kind of a death match. So I'll lose the life bar. The green is basically for their fuel, for their flatulence. And then, so it'll be score based. The goal is score, but you lose as soon as you fall off. So if you've got like say 2 to 8 players, the last man standing probably gets a bonus. But then after that, it's going to go over to a leaderboard so that all the scores can be displayed. And the ultimate goal will be the score. So it might be like a bonus for time spent in the level as well as eating the loot. Something like that. Yeah, I appreciate it. So I'm going to pivot here. Because all that's really left in that one is some problem solving, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do that here tonight. So I'm going to open up what's basically like my pet project at the moment, because I switch around a little too often. And since you're just finding my channel, what I've been working on is this tower defense game where these enemies come down the path as usual. And you can plop your towers down in a free form style. It's not fixed to a grid. And you can select multiple tower types. And then once the enemies hit your base, you're actually going to lose light. And in this case, I've got light. Let me fix these text objects real quick so you can read them. The light is both your currency, your life, and it's also an ambient effect, so they will reduce the amount of light in the scene as well. So I put a tower out here. Their enemies are going to spawn in. I'll let them reach the base. And I've told this basic tower not to shoot at them yet. So it's tracking them, but I don't want it to kill them yet. So let's see if we can get the light to go down a bit. I think I actually I disabled them. Oh no, there they go. Gemcraft, I am on the same page as you. That game is awesome. That actually is one of my main inspirations for this one. Yeah, you start getting like just thousands and thousands of enemies on the scene there, but you're upgrading the gems so fast, and it gets out of control pretty quickly. It's really crazy. I love it. Yeah, and honestly, if I tried to do something like that here, I'm not sure if my programming chops are up to par, and I'm pretty sure my FPS would be at about 1. But yeah, for sure, that's definitely an inspiration. I think my goal here is, in fact, I can show you my goal in terms of the tower types, at least. Let me pull up my Google Sheets here. So these are what I'm currently working on. Yeah, I have no idea how they did that. I know it was originally coded in Flash. It was originally a Flash game. I don't know if you remember playing those actually on browser. They don't even work anymore. They're still available. You can get them like on Steam and everything. But yeah, he coded it in Flash, which has actually a lot of efficiencies. So he must have known what he was doing, and he made it work. Anyway, here are my tower types, and the ones that have a strike through are already in the game. So lately I added an arcane tower. There's a moon tower that has sort of a black hole effect. It'll suck in the enemies and then spit them back out. It's got some orbiting moons. There's an ice tower with freezing bolts. Nothing that's too groundbreaking. There's an earth style tower that will spawn light. And this is basically the equivalent of like the Plants vs. Zombies sunflower, where it spawns basically your resource over time. I got a fire and meteor tower into the game. So yeah, just slowly chipping away at these. Nice. We're pretty close in age then. Yeah, those were definitely the good old days. Definitely. So what I'm going to do then is... don't you hate that? Every you think of a nostalgic game and then you got to go back and play it again. I have to stay away from some things or I'll get sucked back in. Anything Diablo. Definitely Gemcraft. And even Path of Exile can get me. I try to stay out of those too. Anything construction as well, like Factorio. Now the last thing I was working on here, I was tweaking the arcane bolt. So let me double check where I left off with that. Purple. Okay, so I took out a particles emitter from the shot itself, and I just told the bullet, the quote-unquote bullet, to just spawn some circle sprites underneath it, which will delete themselves as they shrink down. So if I pause that, each of these is not coming from a particle emitter anymore. It is coming from, they're just being spawned according to basically one every act. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I'm glad it looks enticing to you. Once I get it to a stable place, I think I can, well, I know I can put it up online as a sort of draft. I'd love to put it up there. GDevelop makes it really easy. This is another reason I like working in this engine. So I'll pull up how this works. I can put it on itch.io as well, but there's a feedback loop built into these games. So for example, and I haven't put a lot on here yet, but here's an old Game Jam submission of mine, and I put it up on gd.games, GDevelop Games. And it doesn't have comments here like you might see on like a YouTube video, but I do receive feedback, and so people earn these like in-engine currency by submitting feedback here, and I get that here in my game engine. So if I close out and I go back to that game, that was over here. And I get feedback. I get those comments over here, and the people can break it down by criteria, they can leave notes, and it's super helpful. And so, yeah, I can definitely put this up. Again, once I get the basic tower types up there, most of the enemies are already in. And I'm going to put in a level system, maybe get the first 10 levels put in. And yeah, I'd love to get your feedback. Absolutely. Would appreciate it. In fact, how many levels do I have at the moment? I've got... The basic level is actually pretty easy. It's something I'm actually creating in Flowscapes, which is I get that off of Steam. But if I just change the animation of the image, then I get a different look. So having said that, I think I just changed a few things around. Let me open this up again. The ground image. Okay, I'm gonna take my words back a little bit. I took some of the images out, but basically what's going to happen is I will keep changing the background image. It's just one big sprite. And then I added a barrier here, which prevents the enemies from going off the path. And let me show that. So it's much less pretty if I actually show it, but this is showing how the enemies are finding their path. They can't go through the gray thing. And then the player cannot build, oops. The player cannot build on top of the red blocks. So that's just kind of my shorthand version of pathfinding here and for building prevention. So I guess on the next stream I'm going to get my levels put back in. I had about 5 and I have them here locally somewhere, but I don't know. Let me see if I can find them. A year of creating your narrative system. See, yeah, game writing is definitely... I have a lot of respect for people who can do that. Because you're both writing basically a novel, as you put it. But you're also doing it in a... I'm not sure exactly how you've structured it, but I assume it's a little bit interactive. You probably modify... Like, do you have it set up to where there are different outcomes depending on player choice? But I would believe a year. I mean, I'm going on 6 months with basically just what you're looking at here, and I have zero narrative whatsoever. And I'm looking for my other backgrounds. I could put them into the game immediately if I find them. Bad game dev. Okay, so here's one. Here's an example of one. I had this in the game already and took it back out. Nice. The system creates stories that change based on NPC choices and PC choices. Yeah, and environmental situations. Yeah, it takes a lot of, I guess, foresight to accurately do that. Well, props to you. Are you working on it in any kind of public space? Is it like on itch.io or anything? Or is there any way for people, sorry, for people to follow you or track the game? And I'm going to modify the arcane tower here. And what I'm doing is I'm tweening the size and the color of these particles. So for the color, I have it going from this pink color up here, where I first create the thing. So I first change it from a white to this sort of pinkish. And then from that pink color, I'm tweening it, which means it's gradually changing over a quarter second to more of an indigo. And so that's kind of the color theme I'm going with for this arcane. Added a little bit of transparency. And I think part of the problem here is that when it's firing these bullets, it doesn't seem to be showing the arcane bullet itself. So let me double check this. Go to the purple, send in the enemies. So if I pause this at the right moment, I think it's being covered up actually. So I need to bring that actual bullet up to the front. And I'm using the term bullet loosely. It's just whatever the projectile is. It could be a magic orb. Okay, so you're working on it locally there on your PC. Well, hey man, I completely understand wanting to hold on to it until you're comfortable sharing it. This is kind of like me showing everyone my ugly baby, right? And all of its flaws. Using Lua script, yeah. So, I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. Well, definitely keep me updated on that. I'm interested in following along. And it does sound like something I'd play too. So I'm going to see if I can get that bullet to come upward. Let me set... I'm going to set the Z order. So let me find this arcane particle. Z order. I'm not even sure what I want it set to. Let me put that at, say, 100. And I'll set the other thing, the bullet, on 101. Hopefully that does the trick. Let's see if it was that simple, but probably not. Yeah, it did do the trick actually. So let's pause. So there's the arcane shot right there on the top. It looks like I just need to make the particles quite a bit smaller. So let me do that. In fact, I can just minimize this and update it. Alright, on 8-way movement, the sprites are being animated in Spine, which I have played around with. I'm not very good at it. You're an artist and writer. 2D top-down. Awesome. Yeah, I could definitely put some turbulence on those particles. I think that's a good idea. Let me see what I can do. Let's shrink the size down first. So let me see. As soon as it's created, I'm cutting the size in half. Let's cut that down to actually a quarter. And then we can probably also add So we have some options here. Let's just play around. It's basically a sandbox. Let me go back out to the object itself. Where? Oh, here it is. Let's see, we might need to add a behavior to it. I haven't used this exactly, so we're going to find out how well it looks. How good it looks. Alright, we're going to do... See, this thing, I think they're living for half a second. So we'll just say to shake it for half a second. Amplitude in pixels, I don't know what to expect exactly, so we'll just say 10 and 10 on the X and Y axis. Amplitude of angle rotation shake. We don't really care about the rotation because it's just a circle. Put a 0. Amount of time in between shakes, the default is 0.08. Let's go with that. Keep shaking until stopped. We will say yes. Concerned ape. Yep. Definitely, definitely an inspiration. And that's what I do. I look at these guys and I'm like, they made it work, and it's pretty freaking awesome. Really setting that bar high. And I lost my preview window as well. Dang it. Alright. I'm going to save and close out because my computer's being goofy. Oh, there we go. A nice JavaScript error. Yeah, that's exactly how it is. I didn't want to... I always felt like when I was playing a game that I was enjoying it. But I felt like, in addition, I wanted to be creating something. And I decided, you know, I didn't go to school for IT or anything. I work in IT, but I never really did all this as a kid. I just thought about game making and I thought about game design. And then one day I decided, what am I waiting for? Well, I'm waiting for nothing. Just start. Just start. Preview. Okay. They're so short-lived. You can see I added some kind of an effect on here where they're sort of shaking and moving. I might need to add more of them per shot. And I also don't like that they're disappearing way before they actually appear to hit the enemy. What's happening is that initial one is touching the outer radius and then deleting. And everything else is just trailing up until that point. So it doesn't look like it's hitting the center. I do have a particle effect exploding from the center of the enemy. But that initial sprite does not make it to the center, so it just feels a little wrong even though it's working correctly. So I might need to tweak that. I think you gotta be a little crazy. Normal people don't make games. But it's a good crazy. It's an outlet. And, you know, I'm rough around the edges, and I think a lot of people are, but it's still an outlet, and it's what we do. 100%. Like the game jam, I just admitted that I didn't, I failed the game jam by not getting my submission in. It's like, why do normal people don't put themselves through a 48-hour game jam? It's a little bit masochistic or something. Why would you sweat over a novel's length of, text and scripts? Only you can say. All right. Yeah, I think it's that issue where they're basically vanishing before they seem to hit it. I don't like that. So let me see what I can do there. Crazy is good, crazy is wise. It's kind of like any of those kind of groundbreaking games. It's like, the makers of Minecraft, they were crazy, and yet they were world-changing. They wrote that thing in, I think, Java before they sold it. Raiden 3 had some good particle effects. Talking about this one here. Some juicy explosions. Yeah, the napalm and the laser, I can see that. I've tried to create some of those sprites by hand, and I did for actually my first game. It was actually this style of game. It's funny that you mentioned this, and I earned a lot of respect for people who can make smooth, fluid-looking, like fiery or electrical-looking effects. I love that. Yeah, now, like, kids these days, it's like you want an explosion, you just come in here, you grab your particle, you grab your explosion, and there it is. But either drawing that out or maybe procedurally creating one is definitely a whole different story. Okay, I need a game plan for this arcane shot. Let's see here. So this is where it's created. So once the enemy is in distance to the tower, and the tower head Arcane is active. It's going to fire this shot. I'm putting it on the Z order 101 so that we can see it over the particles underneath. It seems like I need to scale it up slightly. It's a little small. I'll set that to 1.1. And then... But the issue is whenever it's being deleted. So that would be under the enemy's collision area, which should be up here. All right, enemies and flame tower. Enemy and arcane tower. Here we go. So if the enemy is within 100 pixels, it's applying the damage, creating the impact effect, and then deleting the shot. So I almost need to hard code something into this to make it less precise. Reflected light off the surface of the map. Yeah, that's definitely something I could do. Let me see. Not sure I can do that at the moment, but it's a matter of the layers. I know that's easier to do in like a 3D environment. Right now what I have are a few layers. Actually quite a lot, and most of my lights are on a lighting layer, which is one layer above the ground layer. So I think that every time there's a shot, so for example, let me go back down, let me change this color to something pink, that way I can find it better. Okay, and apply. Let me go back down. So at the time that the bullet is created, I'm then also creating a light and I'm sticking it to the bullet. And I created that one on the same layer actually. So, Let's play with this. Let me go up here. I'm going to decrease the ambient light value. I'm going to make it pretty dark. And so here is how the shot looks right now. Send in the enemies. So it has a light, which as you can see, it's not very bright. And I can't pause it fast enough, geez. So it has a light and you can see it's kind of emitting that light, but it's not acting like a light. For example, this one over here at the lamp is, and that's because I added a light on both the base layer and on the light layer. So let me try adding another light there on a higher layer. Let's see if that has another impact on this. So I'll simply create a second light. Hello, Quest Unplayed. How you doing today? Your Monday going all right? All right. I'm actually going to zoom in a bit because I need to. Okay, create object, bullet, arcane light. So let's just basically duplicate this. And paste. Let me try it. Maybe a sub event would be safer here. So let's just put the original events right here. So create bullet, light, stick it, and then change the variable. So first I will not change the variable. Rather delete that. Let's just duplicate this. And in the first one I will not change my Boolean. And then remove these. So create light, except the first one is going to be on the base layer, the second one is going to be on the lighting layer. And hopefully that looks a little bit better. I'm not sure how much reflectivity we're going to get, but this is something I originally wanted to do and never got around to it, so I'm kind of glad you reminded me. Oh wow, you're already on Tuesday. Well, welcome to the office. Hope you got your... Are you a tea or coffee drinker? That's right, yeah. Today is only yesterday's tomorrow. I can't even process that right now. Alright, let's see what this does. What kind of bugs are we going to get here? Definitely coffee. I am right there with you. In fact, I actually had to... You're drinking one right now. I've been actually on a sort of a decaf... I don't... If you want to call it a detox. Just on a decaf sort of diet right now. Because I got to the point where I could drink copious amounts of coffee and it had no impact on me. Yeah, definitely. Glad to have you join us. I was just talking to my friend here, and we're musing about how it's the crazy people who create games, but we have to do it. And this is my ugly baby, but I'm happy to have anyone along for the ride to watch the show. Yeah, welcome to the studio. Yeah, the dog is annoying. Yeah, I think adding that extra layer of light did wonders for that shot there. So, the Crinsada, thank you for that reminder. That adds a bit of punch that we really needed here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to step away because my dog is outside making a fuss. Just give me 1 minute. I'll be back because I still need to fix this arcane shot. So... You have a gaming podcast that just, excuse me, just started a few weeks ago. You officially have 1 episode plus an intro episode. And what's the name of your podcast? How can people find it? And I'll be right back. All right, I am back. Had to get the dog inside since it's nighttime over here in the US. She was going crazy out there. I think it's awesome you're starting up a podcast to promote indie devs. Some people say the excuse me, sorry for all the coughing. The indie scene is like a bubble, that it's oversaturated, but honestly I think that it isn't saturated enough, at least not with good games. And I think that, in the spirit of, since competition leads to better results for the consumer, that it's a good thing. It's good. It's healthy competition. And even though people are vying for for everyone's attention out there, that I think, we sharpen each other up. So I love to see the support. So it's called Quest Unplayed. I'll have to check that out. And kudos to you for putting yourself out there too. It's not easy. And I know there are a lot of people out there with a lot of good thoughts who should share them. And yeah, I'm an indie dev. I do this in my off time. Started off as a hobby, and I just kind of decided to share my journey with the world. So here I am. Have a few videos out there on how to use this GDevelop engine, and I'm currently working on my pet project, which is this tower defense game, in which it's literally darkness versus light. Light is your currency, it's your health, and it's also an ambient effect as well, which I might make into a more meaningful effect as well. I'm kind of thinking about Minecraft and how the darker it is, the more enemies spawn. So I would like to work something like that into the game as well. So it's very much a literal light versus darkness. And it's in the early stages. It's not even at alpha yet. Yeah, you got to start somewhere. Start on YouTube, and because when I started this not too long ago, I was thinking, which platform do I want to start on? Well, YouTube is my home, but obviously there's Twitch and all, TikTok and whatever. Start somewhere, get something working, and once you have something working that you're comfortable with, it's that much easier to start branching out. I don't have a name for this yet. Right now, the working title, if I just go over to my main menu, is just Dark Tower Defense. So it's clearly a working title. But I get the feeling that it's going to name itself as I mature the game and add, just a little bit of lore to it maybe. Even, for example, we talked about Gemcraft. Even that has lore, and I did actually read through it all. And I feel like this is going to name itself the closer I get. So this is the working title right now. I do have a map system in here too, by the way. But I recently made some new parchment in GIMP. And I might use that. Let me pull that up here. It's actually more of like a pressed paper. I don't know what it is exactly. I've got a few of them that I can play with. So something along these lines. That's not one. Over here. It's not the world's best or anything, but it is something that I made, and so I might switch over to one of these. We'll see. Right now I need to play with this event. Quest unplayed. Yeah, that sounds like a fantastic idea. Get people on there and listen to them. I follow other people, several people on YouTube, and they do the same kind of thing, which is, it's great because you could have someone just sit there and ramble. Excuse me. You could have someone just sit there and pontificate by themselves, but once you start talking to the people out in the world, you get so many different experiences, and they, in my opinion, break a lot of myths, like what works, what doesn't, and those questions are going to be different for a lot of people. Some with similarities and some with differences. So I think that's valuable for everyone. And yeah, I would always be open to receiving assets and exploring those. The Krensada, if you have any. Right now, and I'm also maturing my style. Right now, it's, as you can see, sort of a quasi 3D, but it's really a 2D game. So my in-game levels are pretty much finished right now, and I have a system for building these out, like I said, in Flowscape. So it's a 3D world builder, but everything else I am still in need of. All of my buttons, all of my UI, it's all placeholder. The only things that are more or less not placeholder right now are any of the towers that I've finished out. Like, these are more or less finished, and if I'll build those out in Blender if I make any changes at all. But yeah, I'm looking for some UI. I'm looking for maybe a world map as well, like I showed you the. If I go into here and open up that parchment, I'm not dedicated to using a parchment. It could be something different as well. So I'm open to a lot of suggestions here. I had another idea where instead of loading into just that, maybe that's sort of like a little map that you pick up with, say, a handful of levels, like 5 levels. And the world map is literally a world or like a continent. And I'm pulling up an image over here on the other monitor real quick. So where here I have, this would be like a single level. And a couple other level bases. So almost like the Skyrim map, actually. I just pulled this up in Flowscape, but I'm not using it exactly. But I have an idea for the journey. You'll basically navigate around, and as you collect your different abilities, you'll pick up different tower types. So you'll pick up your fire tower in a fiery volcano-y area, for example, over here. And then you'll travel to the top of the mountain and pick up your ice tower. You go to the dark side and get your moon tower, that kind of thing. And maybe along the way you pick up scrolls, which give you sort of like the next step of the journey, and maybe those are this type of map here, something like that. I'm playing around with a few ideas to kind of help flavor the navigation through the world instead of just going from level 1 to level 2, that kind of thing. Yeah, out of curiosity, and I agree, I love some beautiful parchment. Out of curiosity, what kind of art tools do you use? I know you said you use spine, I think it was. And yeah, possibly a compass with filigree, some Celtic knots, even Greek. I think all that would be really spot on, honestly. And I would love to get to that point. I'm kind of like in this mode where I have to get these towers built. It's the monkey on my back, and I've got to get them in the game. And then I can start to branch out and do some more of the fun artsy side as well. Build more levels. Okay. Let's do a little game dev here. Okay, we got the light working. I'm going to save that if I haven't already. That is a success. We need the bullet to not disappear too early. So let's say I could just reduce the distance by which the enemy detects the I think I'm going to reduce the distance by which the enemy detects the bullet, but I don't think that'll completely solve the problem. Let's drop that down to, say, a distance of 50. And then I think I'll need to increase the speed of the shot so that it actually hits the enemy. If I make the accuracy range smaller, then a slow bullet's gonna just miss most of the time. So let me increase the speed from, say, 700 to, I don't know, 900 pixels per second. I'll save that. And I'm going to run the preview, but I'm gonna step away for just one moment. Get this up and running. All right. Mostly a 2D artist. Honestly, I think I'm more of a 2D artist as well. I mostly borrow 3D art, so. But that being said, I don't consider myself an artist. Like, I don't have like a specialty. Do you have like a specific style or anything that you like to work in? For example, I've made some pixel art games with my own pixel art. I've tried my hand at some vector art. And then I've made a few other items as well, but, you know, like playing around, like making some text, some fabric and textiles and stuff. All right, test this arcane shot here. How close does it get to the enemy center? I need to add a step-by-step, like a frame-by-frame button into this. That would be great for testing purposes. There might be one. Really need to do the step-by-step. That would help with this kind of thing a lot. It's getting closer. Specifically 50 pixels closer. Which, you know, I think I think I'm going to put the stamp of it's good enough on that for now, so I can keep moving forward, and I can come and fiddle around with that later on if I want to. Comic book artist first and foremost. Awesome. Are you, I know you said your current game is very much with placeholder art. Are you wanting to make it in sort of a comic book graphics, like the graphic novel style? Obviously there's not just one graphic book style, but whatever your personal style is. All right, I'm going to add a sprite in here. If I can find it. There it is. Actually, I need to add that as a separate animation. Similar to anime, exaggerated forms, simple cartoon shapes, saturated colors. That's pretty cool. That sounds like it'd be really interesting to look at in a game. Do you work with a 80s Disney movie style? Nice. Do you work pen and paper, or do you use like tablet and stylus, or how do you, or desktop and mouse? What kind of tools do you use? Let me double check something here. The layers, the enemy barrier 2, if I show that one, okay, so this is the barrier for level 2. And so if I change the background to level 2, or specifically change the animation to 1 instead of 0, now we would have this level. And then if I change a single global variable, the global variable level from 1 to 2, then the code, the logic should change the barriers for us. So let's see if this works. Yep, it did. So now the enemies are following the path, and that's basically my level system. That's how I put that in there. So to get the multiple levels, I'm just changing a single global variable called level, and it's going to move everything around for me. So it's actually one background object which holds multiple animations. So I just changed the animation from one static sprite to another, and that's been a pretty simple approach for swapping levels, in my opinion, because I can use all the same code in one place. Pen, tablet, pen, paper, ink pens. So, wow, that's a lot. Nice, man. Well, I hope to see some of that if in your game, and if not, then maybe in another project, huh? Okay, I need to pick one more thing. One more thing to do here tonight or this morning if I'm in Korea. And I need to pull up my planner here. Arcane bolts are pretty solid now. I don't even remember what I was going to do for this full moon. I think it had to do with more of an effect over the entire level. But I do have an idea for that, actually, and I'm just thinking about it right now. So let me pull up this other game that I made for a game jam. I'm going to mute it so it doesn't mess up the sound, and go back. So watch this. The only thing you suck at is music and sound design. Yeah, music's not my strong point. I'm getting a little better with sound, but I feel like I'm decent at sound because I'm not good at art. So, but that's the problem with being an indie dev, solo dev. I literally just put out a video on my channel today talking about where to get free game art from itch.io or whatever. And it's because it's so hard to be good at everything. Some people are. The problem isn't just being good at it though, right? It's time. Like I was working all night, as you saw, on a single type of shot from my towers. Is it worth spending 4 more hours on making that shot look better, or should I move on and get some more stuff into the game? Well, I'm not the best graphics designer in the world, so I'm going to call it good enough and move on so I can actually have a game. What I'm pulling up right now is an old game from earlier this year, and all I want to show off is the sun. So it's going to travel from right to left. And when it does, when it reaches the left side, then the level ends. And I'm thinking of putting in a full moon into my game for the moon tower. So it's not going to be an active, it's more of a passive ability for the tower, right? So the sun reached the side, the level ended, here came a portal, which I missed and died. And so I might do that same kind of a thing. I don't know how to make it look though, because I'm not looking up at the sky. I've got the ground. This is top down. I could add some sort of like transparent, like half transparent, almost like a reflection thing going from the top across. I'll need to figure that out, but that could be a pretty cool ability. Oh, nice. I'm glad you saw the video. That's kind of, I'm glad I put it out there. Otherwise, we might not be chatting right now. Do you have any of your art on any of those websites? I feel like it should be up there. Yeah, good question. Should it generate light faster or maybe cause the enemies to degen like a dot, like a dot mechanic? And if I go back to my spreadsheet, for dots, I'm running into a situation where I have a couple of different sort of like AoE dot mechanics in mind. One of which is the fire tower's scene burn. It just kind of infernos the scene. And that would be some sort of like high level ability. You can't use it too often. As would the moon, the full moon. And the blood tower is all about degen. I'm thinking kind of like warlocks in a lot of games. Maybe even at the cost of your own. So this is like blood magic. Maybe you're sacrificing resistance to do more damage. So that one I had a life degen area, like an AoE, which would be a dot. I have a scene burn dot. And then the full moon. So the full moon might be different. Instead of a direct damage, it might be more of a removing, like maybe it exposes the enemies for who they are or something like that. Although I also have this darkness pierce, but I think that's going to be more about actually the actual resistance number. The full moon might be able to, for example, strip any shielding and any regen that they might have. Lots of ways I could go with this. It's not very well thought out at the moment. Paralysis would be a good idea. You have an art station. So, is that like are you referring to your physical art station, or is that like a website platform? I'm too stupid to know. We could do something with paralysis. Let me see here, because that would just really be a variable flip. Okay, it's a website. Nice. Is your profile on there by the same name? Okay, let me find a moon. I have one in here, actually. If I go to towers, tower objects, moon. This one might be too small. Let me drag that out. Why is it on that layer? Okay, let me undo that. I lost it. Let me pull up my instances. There it is. Let me set that on the base layer so I can see it. All right, yeah, it's a little small. Let me see if I have a new one. I think I have another one. Yeah, right here. So let me go to the moon. Actually, I'll need to duplicate that. I'm going to call it full moon. I don't want it to borrow any of the same behaviors as the other one. So now let me add an animation, add sprite, and grab the moons, open, and pull that to the front. Let me double check. I need that to loop and preview. Okay, we'll say that's good enough. Let's put the starting point at the center, 30 and 30. And yeah, let me see, collision mask. Okay, yeah, we'll apply that. Oh, got you. So you found your username on there. Well, hey, maybe this is your calling to. If you hit a writer's block, maybe do some of that. Do some of that graphic art. And Quest Unplayed, you're also a community manager at a gamers community platform. When you have have your games out on Steam, I can upload it on our database. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Love to collaborate. Appreciate that. Okay, so I'm thinking right now what I'm going to do is add an ability that's just going to spawn a moon out here. And it's not going to do anything. This is going to be more of an icon at the moment. It'll just sit there and spin. Let me make sure I put that on loop. Yeah. That'll just tell us that it's active. And while it's active, that's going to cause paralysis to any nearby enemies. So let's see how we can work through this. I know that gdevelop just added variables to groups. So let me close, actually let me open my groups panel here. Look at enemies and variables. I think I'm going to need to add or tweak some of the variables that I'm using. But once I do that, this should be pretty straightforward. So right now I've got these. I don't have a speed variable. Let me double check this other thing. Okay. I'm going to add a variable called speed because I'm creative like that. Might not even have to do this. I might be able to do this with a behavior. So again, you're watching me explore this right here live. So we'll see if it works. Let's do right now for excuse me, for the interface, we have basically you just put your tower down and you can select the moon tower, which is the gray one here. And at the moment, it's creating a black hole. I'll probably disable that for testing purposes. And let me disable the black hole. Yeah, the skill for the moon makes paralysis excuse me, lasts longer. Probably even causes some enemies to move permanently slower even after the spell ends. That's certainly a possibility. And so what I'm thinking in my mind is how much overlap do I have with, say, the ice tower, which of course I could change that too. Ice is usually a bit of a slowing effect, but it might have a slow cloud AoE. And freeze bolts, which would add maybe some temporary slowing. But if this is a full moon, and I'm thinking this is more of like an epic ability, you can't use it very often, then yeah, it could add some permanent slowing, make the paralysis last longer. So if anything else is causing paralysis, maybe this is amplifying that duration. I think that's a really good direction to go with it. And so yeah, I'm going to work on getting this sort of functionally implemented. And then once it is, we'll know exactly how we can play around with it and tweak the numbers and that sort of thing. So What I'm going to do, what we have right now is I need to go where the moon tower is created. Let me search. Right here it's creating the black hole. Let's disable that for testing purposes. And I also have this, and I might as well show you. So there is one moon ability already. This is more of a physical attack. It really just sort of bombards the enemies with damage. So it has orbiting moons, and they just whack the enemies as they come by. It's pretty powerful because I have it doing damage every single frame. But it's, you know, selective on where it hits. So that is one ability. This other one would stack on top of that. And so basically I would say, you know, any enemies within a certain radius, you know, I don't know if it'd be this radius or not, they receive that paralysis, and maybe there's a chance for it to be permanent. Maybe it amplifies existing paralysis. Let me disable those moons though. And I'm going to add a sub event here, and it's going to create a moon. Let's see here, full moon at the location of, right now this is going to be more of just an indicator rather than something that's physically in the world until I figure out the direction I want to go with that. So let's just put it at, say, scene, oops, I need to create it first. Hold on a second. Where am I here? Oh, that would be why. All right, so let me go to full moon. Create, and we'll do this at scene window width, and we'll say plus, I guess, about 120. In the Y position, we'll just put that at 200 for now. And we'll put that on the, let's put that on the UI layer for now. So that's above everything else. And let's do, I need to create an object variable on the tower. Let me see here. If I can find my objects. Let me check something here. Oh, I'm glad you like the orbiting idea. Okay, so what I was looking for is if there was a specific tower head on here. There's not. And I also killed my FPS for some reason. Why is it so bad? Wow, there is something in the code that it does not like at all. Okay, I need to figure out what is killing. It's probably looking for... Yeah, let me add an event above this. It's probably looking for the towers when they don't exist, and it's wasting a lot of resources looking. So let me do a... in this case, it'd be... If the number of black holes... if the number of black holes on the scene is greater than 0, then it will do this repeat event. And what else? It could be bogging it down. That's one big one. Let's see if that did the trick. I'm really curious. That's a big frame drop. It's still plummeting. Why is it plummeting? Can't really test anything if it's that bad. So if the animation is number 9. Oh. Is it continually trying to create these moons? I think I just found the problem. Oops. Yeah, okay. So it was really just the event that I just now added. Well, that's fine. I wasn't done with it. How dare the computer do what I told it to do. Alright, so what we're going to do then is pull this... We'll leave that there. I just needed to add a variable to the tower. So let me go back to my tower object. Let's see, yeah, tower base. I need a variable here. We'll call it full moon active. That'll be a Boolean. And that'll start off as false. Then we'll do, go back, let me close that. Don't need the main menu. So we'll say if tower variable full moon active is false, then create the full moon and set it to true. That way it doesn't keep making them. And yeah, welcome back. I was just saying I'm glad you like the orbiting moon effect. That was an effect that I discovered when I paired a couple of different behaviors, one of which is a Z-order effect where the moon gets smaller as the Y value decreases. So if the top of the scene is 0, then as it goes closer to 0, it gets smaller in size. And then I also added, of course, the animation where it seems to rotate. On top of that, I added an additional rotation to it to make it a little more chaotic. All right, let me see if these are actually going to spawn now. Should just spawn one. Oops. Okay, so let me open up my debugger here. And it is showing me that there is one here. It's at X position 1400, Y position 200. So this game is 720 by 1280 because I want it to be small enough to maybe fit on a mobile. So 1400x would be way off the scene. Why is it going there? See, oh, so I said scene window width plus 120. I'm just trying to stick the moon icon on the left. So I don't know why I said that. It just needs to be 120 flat. Let's try that. So somewhere up here. Okay, there's our moon. It exists. That's just to tell us that it is in effect. And what I'll do then is, first of all, I would like to scale it up a bit. And yeah, so I'll scale that up. And then I'm going to add a timer so that it doesn't stay on there forever. It didn't seem to scale at all. Oh, I know why. It was the behavior I just described. So let me disable that. Moon. Full moon. If I open this up, it borrowed the depth effect behavior from the moon the moon object that I copied this from. So we don't need any of this stuff. Let me destroy these behaviors. Apply. And now it should scale up properly. In fact, it might be scaled too large. Let me drop that down to maybe 2. And preview. In Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, the questionnaire at the beginning, your game will, in your game, characters gain story hooks based on how you answer the questions. I'm not sure if I've played that particular one, but I know the concept you're describing. I need to go back and play that. Yeah, that's really cool. So the story hooks, how long does it take you to come up with those story hooks? There we go. Now we have a really big moon. All right, so I want that to time out. So that will be a timer of... I'll start a timer. It'll be a timer of the tower base. Full moon timer. So we're going to start that timer here. And then over here, I will say, let me add a new event below, drag that out. We will say if the number of full moons if the okay, yeah, we can do this. If the number of full moons is greater than 0, then we'll do a check below that, which will be a for each object, for each full moon. Then, if that timer is greater than or equal, and we'll say to 6 seconds. Actually, that needs to be a timer of the tower itself. So if the full moon of the tower base is greater than or equal to 6 seconds. So let me link this moon and the tower base. Okay, so you're describing the hooks that form the branching narrative structure. Yeah, that makes sense. So that's what gives you the multiple outcomes based on the player's autonomous actions and choices, right? So, yeah, I mean, like, it sounds like that would get pretty complex pretty quickly. So I need to link the full moon and the tower base here. Link. Actually, to the full moon should be linked to the parent tower base. The order matters here. Create the object and then link it, and then here we'll say if the timer has run out, and moon is linked to the tower base, then we will say to delete the moon. Okay. And when it deletes the moon, we will say that the I need to set the timer to spawn the moon again after a time. So a couple of ways I could do that. The first way I'm thinking is the full moon active of tower base is false. If I immediately set it here, then it's going to look like we always have a moon. We don't want that. So I could do a scene timer here. That might be a good approach. We really only want one of these at a time anyway, which is another idea I was considering. So let me do a scene timer real quick. Start or reset a scene timer. I'll call it scene full moon spawn. And then here I will say if that timer is greater than or equal to 6 seconds, then you know what? Maybe that needs to remain an object timer. Let me change that one more time here. Just trying to make sure I get this right the first or second time. Okay, we'll keep it with the same name. About 200,000 words, possibly double that, and cutscene scenarios to include these narrative blocks. Yeah, complex, but you can do it. You know, if that's what you love, you can do it. And you will. Definitely keep me posted, man. I'm interested. You've piqued my interest. Okay, so changing this one to an object timer. So I think I need to change the name a little bit to make a little more sense. So this would be timer full moon. Removal. That would be the full moon removal timer. This would be the full moon spawn timer. Full moon spawn, not spawn. Okay, so if that timer is started, after it's completed 6 seconds, it will then set this other variable to, let's see, that gets set to true. That can be set back to false. That should be a cycle then. A lunar cycle. All right. This is going to have bugs. I'm just going to run the test so we can find out what they are. So put the tower out here. We have a full moon. It goes away in 6 seconds. Does it come back in another 6 seconds? It does not. So we know it's reaching this point. It's starting the timer full moon spawn of the tower base. When that reaches 6 seconds, it should change the variable full moon active to false. And then up here, if the animation of the tower base is the moon tower, and if that variable is false, it should create the full moon. So I'm going to log a message to the console. Oops. And I will say should be spawning. And up here I will say deleted. So let's see if those both register as true. Okay, so here's my console down here. Deleted right here. Let me see. All right, so if I go to the tower base, it should show me the timers here. So it's showing me the first timer, or rather showing me them both as false. But after 6 seconds, one of them should turn true. So which one? Start or reset the timer, full moon spawn, deleted. So this should be started. And then here I'm saying if the timer is at least 6 seconds. Yeah, exactly. So the towers will illuminate as they shoot out. Absolutely. Like you just saw with that arcane shot, I added some light to it. And depending on the effect, they'll add more or less light. So the fire tower seems to do quite a bit right now. I'm not very happy with the look of the flames, so just forgive those, but they should have some light. So like right now, if these guys catch on fire, they're also illuminating the scene. So this guy down here is illuminating. It's a really short range, so it's kind of a bad example. But if a meteor splashes, it's creating light. And then, yeah, that guy out there, he's got his little light bubble. So things like that. Yeah, otherwise you'd never really be able to see anything. And I will show you this. This game was originally spawned from a game jam idea I had. And it was a game jam. The theme was light, I think. And at the time I had it called Bastions. This had older graphics. None of them were mine, which is why I'm not using them. I don't even know how to attribute them credit. But this example, it gets super dark if you're losing. So if I just let the enemies come in, and I thought that I like these trees. It reminded me of something like Baldur's Gate 1 or something. Anyways, if these enemies come in and I start losing too much light, I realized the game is just black. You can't see anything at all. So I added in towers that create light. But then even then they can run out. And it really just got to the point where it's like you can't see anything at all. So for that reason, I definitely want to add a lot of light so that you have that contrast. Oh, nice. Yeah, that's what you were referring to. See, you're on top of it. You're thinking of these things, and you just now joined. You'd be surprised at how long it takes me to realize direction sometimes. Oh yeah, Baldur's Gate. That takes me back, but I was there when it happened. Okay, I gotta fix this timer loop. We're getting to this point. This point is good. This point, let me run the test one more time. I like the new one. BG3. I like it a lot, especially had fun playing it with my friends. It's obviously a different feel. I think that maybe it was necessary to have a different feel at this point if they wanted to actually be successful. I don't. First of all, I've come to the realization if you're talking about like the nostalgia factor of like that old school game, whichever old school game you're feeling nostalgic about, I've come to the realization that maybe if I want that feeling, I need to just go play them. So I didn't expect that they would try to recapture that exactly, but instead that they might just create a new feeling altogether. I thought it was really well done, but what are your thoughts on it? Okay, what I'm looking for here is the timer. It's like these timers are not being started and reset. I didn't check the full moon active variable. Let me check that. Okay, so true. So if I'm looking here, my full moon active variable is still set to true, even though the moon is obviously gone. So that is a problem. Yeah, that's true. Everybody's handsome, right? Charisma means nothing. No, you're good. Happy to have someone to chat with. Yeah, everyone's definitely handsome in that game. I would agree with that. We need more warts. Okay, so right here I can start and reset this timer at least. But I think this was never registering as true. So it does delete the moon. It says it's deleted. Start or reset the timer. Full moon spawn. Okay, let's give this a shot. And so what I'm looking at here is this variable, which should be getting set to false. Also here in the console, it says deleted, but I'm looking for the message should be spawning. So again, that event is not registering. Should be a simple fix. Yeah, go ahead and take off. It's been a pleasure chatting with you as well. I'll catch you on the next one. I'll do this a few times throughout the week. So, oops. You have a good one. It's been a great chatting. Thanks for following. Now I'm just going to track down this little issue here, and then I'm probably hopping off as well. So let's see. I keep hitting my mic as well. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Full moon removal. In this case, it's getting to here. I'm repeating for each tower base, for each instance of the tower base. Oh, here is the issue. It's a child of this event here if the number of full moons on the scene is greater than 0. So I don't want that at all. I want this to be pulled further out. Now I'm going to give this a shot. Now the moon should spawn and despawn every 6 seconds. There it is. Should despawn. What's going on here? Losing some frames as well. Okay, so it's creating too many moons. It's not despawning any. So, because now we have 6, which is why we're losing frames. So I think I needed to actually reset the other timer here, which would be the full moon removal. Let me make sure I get this right. Okay, I'm just gonna have to track through my logic here completely. So we're creating, once we have a moon tower, the tower variable for the moon active should be set to false by default. And if it's set to false, it'll create a full moon. It'll start a timer called full moon removal, which means once that timer has reached its time limit, it's going to remove the moon. That should happen for each instance of the tower base unconditionally. What I might do is remove this check for whether or not there is in fact a full moon on the scene. And then so these are all going to be I want these to be children of this if the animation of the tower base is a moon tower. So with that being said, repeat for each instance of the tower base. If the timer full moon removal is at least 6 seconds, take into account all of the linked moons and delete them. Should just be one at a time. And then start or reset the timer full moon spawn. And then if the full moon spawn timer is at least 6 seconds, it's going to basically get us back to creating the moons, which it didn't have a problem doing. It was making many moons. It just wasn't then removing all of them. So am I resetting the full moon removal timer? I should have been doing that right here. Let me check my log now because I moved a few events around. And let's check the console here. It says deleted, which we can also see on the screen. Okay, so it is hitting that other. It's registering that other event as true every frame, which plummeted the FPS there as well. So this event right here is registering as true every single time. So which is also resetting the variable to false. So I need to make this not happen. This actually needs to be the other timer. Okay, let's try that. Still too many. Because now we have 4. Wait, now it deleted them. What is going on here? We have 1 moon, 2 moons, 3, and then it deletes them. It's one of those situations. It should be a pretty simple logic cycle, and I'm just not quite getting it. It's not in the stars for me tonight. I can probably even pull this out and not even need the repeat for each instance. Not sure that'll make any difference to the logic. I think it's just an unnecessary check. Let me put a comment up here to help my clarity a little bit. This will be the full moon cycle. Okay. Well, it's mostly working. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fiddle around with this a little bit tomorrow. So it's mostly there. What it's going to be is a check for if the full moon is active, and then if it is, it's going to mess around with the enemy speed, probably based on their proximity to the tower. So I'm going to hit pause here on the stream for tonight, and when I return, I will have solved the logic cycle for the full moon, and then I will also implement the speed effect on the enemies, and that will bring us to the 3 effects that the moon tower will have. So we'll be able to completely write off the moon tower, other than any minor art tweaks or anything like that. So pretty good progress tonight. What we've done is we've modified the arcane bolts so that those illuminate in the dark scene a lot better. In fact, excuse me, I've done multiple things with those actually. The first one was changing the underlying particle effect. So it's no longer using a particle emitter, it's using just some sprites that I've told it to create every frame. So every frame it's creating one of those circles, which are decreasing in size and then disappearing. I have then also made those smaller, and then also added a light on the light layer stuck to the leading projectile there. So now it really lights up and we can see it very well. And so, yeah, appreciate chat calling that one out for me. That was a good reminder. And lastly, we've added the moon tower's full moon indicator, at least. So that indicator now pops up on a timer over here, and we can, it's not going to look like that, it's going to be different, but that timer is now in place, so we can use that timer to implement that effect. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hit pause for tonight. So thank you so much for watching, and if you're watching this after the live stream, then feel free to join me for the next live stream, and I'd be happy to have your input. Always great to have people around, and if you have any ideas or suggestions, I might be able to implement those, or if you have any questions about your own game or projects, I'd love to chat about it. So until next time, I definitely hope that you Until next time, I definitely hope that you have a good one, and I hope that you have fewer bugs than I do. So I'll catch you later. Thanks.